It's Life After Sunday, a podcast by dudes, for dudes, where faith meets the real world. For Eric Duval and Mike Norman, I'm Chris Boren. Let's go.
What is up, gentlemen? It is Life After Sunday.
What's up? Got my boy Tracey in the house.
We have a guest on today, Mr. Tracey Reinhart, the pride of Manila, Arkansas. We're going to start out with a story.
Baby.
The Lions.
How about that?
Yeah.
Tracey, I'm going to start off with, tell us how you fouled out of a basketball game in less than 1 minute. That's got to be like a world record.
So this is how you wanted to start it, Chris. Appreciate that. So we played Westport quarterfinals, senior year state tournament. Played for less than 1 minute throughout the game, and I fouled out. So 5 fouls, less than a minute. I can't remember if I played a little bit in the third quarter and had one, or if they were all 5 consecutively at the end of the game. But regardless, fouled out. You know, I went out hard, so that's what I did.
That's my boy right there. That is legendary stuff, dude.
Man, that's the epitome of my basketball career. All 5'4" of me. Just go in and hit somebody hard.
I was going to say, so what were you doing? Just like playing football on the basketball court?
Pretty much, yes. Yeah.
I love it. Let's go.
He was too slow to play good defense, so he had to foul.
Hey, don't be hating. Don't be hating.
That was it.
I got to know.
Me and Joseph Pinion, we have the same footwork. So,
sorry, Joseph, if you're listening, sir. No offense, 5. We love you, 5.
I love Joey P. That's a joke.
That kid's got concrete in his shoes, man. That kid walks around with blocks on his feet.
That's fair.
I got to know, Tracey. So when you got sent in the game here for this,
did
they tell you to do this, or did you just say, "I'm going in hard. I'm coming in and I'm getting my money's worth"?
It was a little of both. Go foul somebody. We never fouled the best player on the other team on purpose or anything like that, because that would be wrong. So that was not at all what we were doing, Eric.
Okay, I feel you. Okay, and I take it that was the end of the line for the Manila Lions that day.
That was it. That was it. We got beat.
Yeah.
Hey, what is the population of Manila, and what was your graduating class size?
Oh, okay. So population it's probably pushing 4,000 now. It was right at 3,000 then.
Oh, okay.
We graduated with right at 100, I think. I was one of the 3 valedictorians too, by the way.
Wow.
Chris, you didn't know that. You didn't know I was smart, Chris.
Wow.
Yes, I did.
So where is Manila? Because I've not heard of it, and you had a bigger school than we did in Atkins.
So it's in the northeast corner between Blytheville and Jonesboro. Pretty much 20 miles west of Blytheville and about 35 miles east of Jonesboro, right in the boot hill.
Did you ever feel any earthquakes over there? I know they have quakes every now and then.
Yeah, they actually had a pretty big one the other day over there during the day. So nice. I remember being in I think I was in 4th or 5th grade. We had one that we got underneath the desk, and it actually raised some flooring in the school, and so crazy. But
that's crazy though, man. Because they've got that big fault line. They always say, "What if happens?" Memphis could be destroyed. It's kind of crazy.
Yep.
All right, Tracey, I'm going to give you a proper introduction before we get rolling. My man Tracey from Manila, Arkansas, now is in Russellville, a dad, husband. He's running for the Russellville School Board. He is in ministry. Him and his wife are business owners. They are our great friends. I know him and Eric are buddies as well. He just met Mike. We met Tracey and Peyton doing multi-level marketing business that shall not be named. We've been friends ever since. And so take us back, man, to growing up in Manila and playing sports.
Yeah. So grew up over there, Northeast Arkansas. Started out, and you guys don't know this. I hadn't shared this with you yet, but I had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis as a kid. Went to school on crutches, had to get fluid drawn off my knees. Moving on into like growing up, I had 3 brothers at home. I have a sister, and it was pretty crazy, man. My mom, most of the time, was way outnumbered. Got wonderful parents, and I can't say that enough. My mom and dad are good people. When I played baseball, basketball, football, golf. Small school, you're able to do that. You're able to play everything, right? And just enjoyed sports. It was something that I really liked. Was better at some than others, obviously. Being 5'4", you can't be very good at basketball, right? Just in all reality, it's part of life. But you can squat down and play catcher and hit a baseball and do different things like that. So, man, growing up, life was good. My dad managed a supermarket there in town for God knows how long, 25 plus years, I believe. And one of the things, shout out to Dad, one of my favorite things about growing up, man, was once I started driving, I'd be able to go by the store, pick up a breakfast pizza, say hey to Dad, and then go on to school every day. And so just a core memory that I got, and something that I love to do every day. I was a good kid. I did what I was supposed to do. I stayed out of trouble. I didn't. Let me backtrack on that. When it came to school, the community, and all of those kinds of things, I did what I was supposed to do, right? And then came my teenage years when at school I still did what I was supposed to do, stayed out of trouble, but just became very, very disrespectful. My biggest downfalls were girls. I like to be around girls, and a lot of times that caused some arguments between, not a lot of times, all the time, that caused some arguments between me and my mom more than anything else. God love her. I put her through the ringer, man. But no, I never really had issues with like drinking and stuff like that in high school. I tried to do what I was supposed to do. Other than that, and moving on into life, right? I went to Arkansas State University. Well, I graduated from Manila first off as co-valedictorian. May or may not have used the other 2 co-valedictorians to help me sit beside them there. Let's just say quite a bit. I relied on them, but so moving on to Arkansas State, go to Arkansas State University as a freshman. I originally go for a nursing degree, like straight out of high school. That's what I wanted to do, right? And I was valedictorian. I was so smart, and in my mind, as an 18-year-old kid, get to ASU. First test, I made like a 42 on it. And I studied forever. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to study that hard. Like, I'm done. I'm done with school. School sucks. So, changed my major to PE. I wanted to coach, coach baseball is what I wanted to do, teach elementary PE because I love kids. And, started working at UPS, was given the opportunity, once I was with UPS, eventually to go full time, and that's when I decided to change my major. And we moved here. My wife Peyton and I moved to Russellville. Got married. She actually graduated from Tech. She has a teaching degree, so she could teach, but she wanted to after we got married and she was pregnant, she wanted to figure out something to do that she could to stay at home, to be with our new baby. And so it's pretty cool, man. She's, she owns It's Raining Cookies here in town, in Russellville, if you don't know, and she's 100% self-taught. So, it was cool, like coming home from work, just watching like our whole countertops, man, the whole kitchen, the whole every bit of it would just be covered in cookies, and she was just trial and error. And so I gained a whole bunch of weight during that time. Go ahead, Chris.
I'm going to interrupt you, man. I can remember we was doing CrossFit at your house in your garage at like 5:30 in the morning, man, and cookies were everywhere, man. That was no joke.
Yeah. So that's actually how I got to.
I want to backtrack you a little bit to how you and Peyton met. How'd y'all meet?
So we argue about this. So this will be a touchy subject. I love you, babe, but you are wrong when it comes to where we first met. So there's this okay, I'll just backtrack again. So Peyton moved to Manila, 8th grade or 9th grade year. She moved to Manila. She was the new girl. She was super pretty, all the things. And we met at this little diner. It's called Circle Inn. It was this. We don't, those don't exist very much anymore. But I remember specifically that I met her dad, and we just got introduced to their family. And she was driving. She'll tell you she wasn't driving. And whenever she saw me, she took off, and it was a Standard, and she killed it. And so she totally slipped the clutch. She killed the vehicle. She denies it to this day, but is 1,000% what happened. So that was the first time we met. Funny story. Our first date, I guess I could tell you this. I don't know. She may hate me, but we were actually going to prom with different people. I was going to prom with someone, and she was going to prom with someone else. And somehow in the middle of that, those two people decided that, they wanted to probably go to prom together instead. So they went to prom together. Me and Peyton, I picked up a tie that matched hers like the night of prom, and that was our first date. So when we went to prom, dated for about 6 months. She decided she didn't like me anymore and dumped me. So so she dumped me as a sophomore in high school, and then we started dating again as sophomores in college. It's a little bit of our backstory.
And so you guys moved to Russellville pre-marriage, is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
And I'm gonna put you on the spot here. We need to hear this wedding story, the canoe.
Oh boy,
wedding story, sir.
Okay, so I didn't know you was gonna ask me about
Chris.
that either. I appreciate that.
You.
So this is a part of Tracy's life when he was
before Christ, BC Tracy.
Yeah, BC. This is BC Tracy.
Yeah, that's fair. So we were engaged when we moved to Russellville. So wedding day, Peyton, if you know Peyton, God love her. She's a queen in her own, and she had this beautiful wedding, big, beautiful wedding. And part of that wedding was that me and my best man, his name was Blake, we got to, the people are sitting up on a hill. There's this big, massive pond out in front of this hill. And so there's a canoe, and you come from the side. So the best man and the groom, they ride in a canoe. And, well, let me just take you back. Right before said canoe ride, there were a couple of different drinks that were popped and drank really fast. So then we get in this canoe. We drive. So we don't drive. My best man's in the front, and he's trying to, he's rowing me in the canoe, and I'm sitting in the back of the canoe, and we get out in front of all these people. So they're all looking at us. It's just me and him out in this big old pond by ourselves. And I'm like, dude, if you tip this thing over, she's not going to marry me. Like, this is going to be bad. We have to make it to the shore. So we come up, and then we came in super hot on the shore. Okay. Like, when I say we came in hot, it was hot. And so we hit it anyways. It's a pretty funny story. Pretty good.
Peyton was going to be so mad, dude, if y'all would have flipped that canoe over. Like
She probably
the
wouldn't
wedding would have
marry
been
me.
off.
Like
Yeah,
I
no
promise.
wedding.
Like that's probably true. Probably true.
The wedding's completely off.
Yeah.
Hey, Tracy, you said driving the canoe, and you said, no, wait a minute, I wasn't driving. Well, you might have been.
Yeah, that's fair.
You might have thought you were driving a canoe. It's all good, brother. Hey,
It's possible.
let me ask you about something you just said before you go on, and
Yeah.
I'm loving this already. But you spoke to a little bit of, we're talking about growing up in Manila, a little small town. Me and Mike, and we grew up in Atkins, little small town. Chris, Marlton, just right down the road, little small town. You spoke to things like the Circle Inn, the little drive-in. We had those in Atkins. You talked about the grocery store and your dad. And for me, and I'm not going to speak for Mike and Chris, but for me, I am so thankful. Looking back now, as I've aged and gotten old, I'm so thankful for that little town. I'm so thankful for Atkins. Everything about it was amazing. I would not trade it for anything. And I just want to see if that's kind of where you are too. Do you feel kind of the same way about growing up in a little town like that?
Yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I mean, the people there they love each other. It's just different, man. It's just there's a different feeling in a small town versus a larger town when it comes to community and things like that. It has bad. I mean, it's just like anywhere else. It's got issues and things that are wrong as well. But as far as like loving your neighbor, that's where it's at. And also, shout out. My dad's actually the mayor of Manila now too. So shout out to my dad. And so
let's go. Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's cool. And being from a small town and going to a massive city like Houston only makes you appreciate this state and these little towns even more. I was talking to my dentist the other day, and she moved here from California or from Colorado, and that was one of the first things she noticed was when she came here was how nice the people are. She was in a parking lot one day working on the car, and she said she had 3 people stop by and check to see if she's okay. And I can promise you that wouldn't happen in Houston. So definitely agree with you on that, Eric, man. Very, very blessed to be in these small towns in this state.
I honestly feel bad for the people that don't grow up in a small town. And, like in Marlton, man, we had the Triangle Car Wash. Everybody would go. That's where everybody hung out. We'd meet up and park, and we'd go drive the strip. And even in small towns, kids don't do that anymore. And I hate it for them for that too, because that was so much fun, and that kids don't get to experience that stuff anymore.
No. Hey, since your dad's the mayor, I'm gonna put you on the spot, and you may not know, but I'm kind of a history dork. How did Manila get its name?
Oh, if you wouldn't ask me, it was something else. But Chris, look it up. See if it was called Elizabeth before it was called Manila. Can't remember. I don't know the whole story. It had a different name, and then they changed the name to Manila. I should know that. I'm pretty sure that there was like a little document inside the Circle Inn that told that story, and probably read it 100 times. But
right. Well, I'll look at when we get off. I'm going to be researching Manila because I just think that's fascinating. Because everybody hears Manila, they think Philippines. I'm like, how did they get that name in Arkansas? So I want to look that up. Did Chris freeze or no? He's gone.
I was muted. This says Manila was founded in 1852, first named Big Lake Island. Changed its name to Manila in 1901 when the community was incorporated.
Okay.
The choice was to honor the U.S. naval victory at Manila Bay in the Philippines during the Spanish-American War.
Love it. That's cool.
That is cool. I know it does have the smallest state park in Arkansas is in Manila as well. It's the Herman Davis Memorial Park. So
I will definitely have to go visit that.
Absolutely,
cool.
yeah. How cool is that?
He was a little bitty dude too. He was like a little bitty dude, and his story is pretty neat. If you wanted to check that out,
definitely.
Very cool. Continuing on in your story, you and Peyton moved to Russellville. You got married, and proceed.
Yeah. Okay. So we got married. After we got married, about 3 months later, we decided that, we wanted to get pregnant and have a kid really fast. So we were married for 3 months without a baby. She was pregnant. And then once Rain kind of, came into the picture, life started to change a lot. I started to have to realize that it wasn't just going to be my wife that was relying on me at that point, that the world's different whenever you become a dad. And so we started talking about church. Peyton grew up in the church. I was in and out of church growing up quite a bit, and we just never consistently attended church. So I had, raised my hand as a child, around 7 years old, and didn't really understand, what I was doing when it came to having a relationship with Christ. I knew who God was growing up, and I knew the things that I were doing were wrong. Like, I knew but I had never pursued Jesus in any way, ever. And I mean, there was not a time when I would open the Bible or pray or, heaven forbid, listen to a worship song, right? So we decided that, as a family, once we had a child, that we wanted our children to grow up in church. And so we attended First Baptist Church a couple times. Then we drove to Fort Smith. Actually, this is after baby was born. So even like leading up in the pregnancy, Tracey wasn't in church. After Rain was born, like probably just a couple months. I mean, she was little bitty whenever we first started going to church, and we would drive to Fort Smith to my brother's church where they were attending church, and it was they had a neat deal. I can't remember the name of that church off the top of my head, but they had like a balcony where you could sit, and it was for like newborn families, and they had big windows and audio and stuff like that. So you were in a room. So like if your kids were crying and things like that, you didn't have to feel uncomfortable. Like, it was loud in that room, but you could still see the service through the windows, hear what was going on. And it was pretty cool. So, we started looking for a place that was closer. We found New Life Church on the website, and I was invited to New Life Church as well by Chris Goodwin. He actually just retired from UPS, one of my retired guys, and we attended. We started attending New Life Church, and praise the Lord, I was broken. I was humbled, and I understood that there's more to life than the things that I was doing. That if I wanted to lead my family well, that I needed to accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior. And I can take you to the seat that I was sitting in the day that it happened. Pastor Mark was preaching, and it was just a different. It was different, as a child, I raised my hand, but as an adult that day, just the freedom, whenever I decided to, repent and ask the Lord to forgive me. And since that day, my life has been totally different, and changed. And I was baptized at New Life Church. I started leading into ministry. So I went to, VBS was the first event that I went to, and I put together this obstacle course for the students, to go through. And that was the very first time that I had ever served in any capacity in the church. And just fell in love with the kids. I served in kid life there at New Life Church for about a year and a half, 2 years. And then my wife and I became the kid life pastors at the church. We did that for a couple of years. And then now we are the middle school. It's called the youth. We're the youth middle. I'm sorry. We changed the name, and it's the youth middle. So the middle school students are who we get to love on and support now.
It's so crazy how, you said, do you remember the exact seat you were sitting in and what was being preached and all that? And then we all go through that, men and women alike. When you come to Christ, there's a point where I can't remember the address, but there's a script, I think it's in Hebrew somewhere, it says that you believe that God is, and he's a rewarder of those that diligently seek him. And when you actually believe that he is who he says he is, when that drops in your heart, that's when change happens. That's when you start to move into reading the Bible, listening to a worship song. But until that, until you actually believe that, you just riding the fence per se, I think.
Yeah. An interesting point, as we've interviewed various people, and then I hear it at my church a lot. A lot of people, their journey is kind of like that, where they have this defining moment. And for those who may be listening, theirs may be like mine, that's a little bit different. I don't have a defining moment. We just went to church, on holidays. We were the holiday attenders. Had preachers in the family, and I always believed in God and Jesus, but there was no defining moment. And so it's interesting how everybody's different in that, where a lot of people have marked moments like that, and then others like me, I've just always kind of believed it. It's just turning the intensity up, I guess would be the right way to say it. Trying to, as you get older, turn the intensity up, get into it a little bit more. But did everybody here have a defining moment? Chris, you had one. Eric, did you have a defining moment, or were you kind of like me, just gradually turned it up as you got older?
Well, it's kind of interesting that you said it that way, Mike, because I'm a little bit of both, and this is going to be kind of wild. I did have a defining moment when I was 15. Oak Grove Free Will Baptist Church, Pastor Johnny McCoy, brother, brought it home, and I, just like Tracey said, the freedom and then that feeling of just, I knew right then, and I'd done it before, like Tracey did when I was younger, like 6, 7, somewhere around there. I think out at Happy Valley, I was doing Royal Rangers out at Happy Valley Assembly of God there at North Atkins, and so I did the same thing, kind of raised my hand and really didn't know what I was doing. But at 15, when Johnny McCoy brought it home there, the Lord brought it home, but Johnny McCoy delivered the message, and I did have that defining moment, but I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I lived, Mike, me and you grew up together. We were crazy and idiots. I always knew, though. It was always there, and I always knew at that point, even growing up in high school, that he was there, that what I was doing was wrong. And then at various points throughout my adult life, I failed miserably at all kinds of things and made all kinds of terrible decisions, but I always knew the Lord was there. And many, many times by myself at New Life in Conway, I would ask the Lord to forgive me and start over again. I've started over more than anybody in the history of the world.
Not more than me, sir.
Well, you know what I'm saying, though. I've started over. And then in 2022, in Choctaw, Arkansas, it happened again. It was just me and him this time. There wasn't anybody else. There wasn't a pastor. There wasn't a service going on at all. I was sitting in a camper by myself in Choctaw, Arkansas, and I just told God, I was like, look, I've screwed this whole thing up. I've screwed it all up. I need you to help me fix this. And since then, it's stuck. Now, it's taking my brother Chris, Mike, my beautiful wife, my family, everybody's played a part in that. But yeah, that's kind of how it happened for me. I did have a defining moment, but then I just kind of kept starting over. I'm the start over king.
So Tracey,
I'll tell a little bit of my story.
Sorry about that.
Mine's kind of like Eric's. Raised in church, got away in high school, and like Tracey said, when me and Carrie got together, we had Brooklyn on the way. We were like, we got to get in church. We got to do this thing right. We both knew about Jesus. We didn't know who he was. Got in church, immediately got active in ministry, and I got in cruise control, man. I sat behind the drums on the stage, still watching porn, still drinking, for 10 years, man, and or even a little bit longer than that, you know, and I guess it was 19 or 2000 is when I hit rock bottom. Carrie and I were separated, and like Eric said, it was just me and God, man. And I had to make a decision right then to turn to Him fully, quit riding the fence, or fall out completely. And I made the decision to go all in. He restored my marriage, and here we are today. You know, am I perfect? No. Sanctification is a process. We become righteous instantly. Like you said, Mike, when you accepted Jesus, you become righteous instantly, but sanctification is a process that will fully be complete when we make it to heaven. We'll never be perfect, but we are perfect through Him. And I think that, you know, everybody's at different walks in their sanctification process. We all are. All four of us are at different places, but that's how we can help each other, learn from each other, grow. That's why we're doing this podcast, man, to help dudes to reach their full potential.
Well, you know, I was going to ask Tracy this. For me, my wife is really the reason I'm in church, or I'd be like a lot of the guys I know. Yeah, we believe in God, but we don't really go to church. You know, I'm pretty ADD. So, like, when I'm in the service, you know, I just want to get to the message, you know, just the way I'm built, can't help it. But my wife is who made us go to church even when I didn't want to, and drug me in there and got me there. So I was going to ask you, Tracy, was it I know you said y'all decided, but was there a specific, was it you or your wife who was really pushing it the hardest, or y'all both when y'all decided that, you know, we got to do this?
Yeah, it was definitely my wife for sure.
Yep. Gotta love the women, man.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be like that. That ticks me off, man. We as dudes have to rise up and be the spirit. I mean, I know we don't at first, but now that we know the truth, we got to rise up and be the spiritual leaders of our home, because statistics show if the dude doesn't go to church, the family ain't going to church. And, you know, for these people that send their kids to church and don't go, you need to man up and go to church for your kids. And if you're a man and you go to church by yourself and your wife and kids stay at home, that's okay, because statistics show they will eventually follow you.
That's right.
All right,
Chris,
Tracy.
I think a lot of that, man, is because it's just funny to me, like just the pride that the man has, right? Like I don't need anybody else. I can do all of it on my own. And if I don't, I'm weak, right? And that's kind of what's inside of us. And we have to come to that. Sometimes we have to be broken at that bottom point to where we realize that, you know, I gotta have help, you know, and sometimes that looks like your wife dragging you to church, even though that's the opposite way it's supposed to be. You know, I believe that's why God gives us good women as well in our lives.
Well, amen
100%.
to that, Tracy. Absolutely. That's well said, brother. I thank the Lord every single day for Casey. I don't get me off on that. She's an absolute angel. A heart like I've never seen. But anyway, I had a question before we get too far off track on your youth ministry. If you don't mind, kind of walk me through it. What's that look like? What is it like to be a youth pastor? What do you see in those moments with those kids? And what are these kids today facing? What are you seeing from them, you and your wife, and just kind of walk me through what it's like being a youth pastor.
Man, it's rewarding. It's fun. It's important, and it's sad sometimes. I don't think that people understand. I know I didn't, right? So I said we were the Kid Life pastors, which would be 1st through 4th grade. And now we have 5th through 7th grade. And for me, a lot of those kids that we had in 1st through 4th grade are now 5th through 7th grade. So like we've kind of watched those students progress and mature to where they're at now. And some of them are actually already in high school, which is crazy because that means time's just flying by. But the hardest thing for me, Eric, is watching a young person lose their innocence, because you can just see it, even if they don't say anything, even if they never tell you how or why or what's going on. There's a point where they go from being wide-eyed and bushy-tailed and happy and to where they're no longer that. And it's just evident on their face. I think what we're dealing with, what the students are dealing with now, is, so when I was in high school, middle school, we just were getting cell phones and things like that. And I know y'all talk a lot about this, and y'all talked about some of it last week, but it's what I had on steroids, man. It is constant. They look up and idolize people in pop culture and things like that. And if people don't do that to them, like if people aren't looking up to them or following them, then they feel like they're worthless. And so for me, it's trying to instill, like, you are who God says that you are. You are a child of God. You are beautiful. You are chosen. You were created the way that you were created, for a reason and for a purpose. And so that's the biggest thing for me, Eric, is you can see it. It's yeah.
You speaking that truth into these kids, man, might be the only time that some of these kids ever get that, man, and it's so important. And I thank you for accepting the call into youth ministry, man. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for everybody. You truly have to have a heart for kids, man, and what you're doing, man, and it help change these kids' lives, man, and love on them. And I don't know, they may all get love at home, man, but statistics show most of them probably don't. And showing them what God says about them, showing them being the love of Jesus to them is just, it's amazing, man. And my hat is off to you for embarking on this journey in youth ministry, because I know it's tough. And you got anything else to say about youth ministry?
No, I mean, I could talk to you about it all day, really. I just, man, it's cool. It's cool. I'll say this. We get caught up in, like, man, the students are horrible. They're doing all these bad things, and they're like, people, like, the world believes that the youth of today is the problem, right? And I will say that our youth ministry, when it comes to like middle school, high school, college, I see so much hunger for real, authentic truth, because, like, I think that that's starting to shift. So all they see all day, right, is stuff that's fake on Instagram, on Facebook. Like, you're looking at, and they know that. And I think that, I think the pendulum is swinging a little bit to where they're starting to realize that, their life isn't going to look like that. And they're just really beginning to be hungry for, like, what is really true? What is truth? What is my truth? That's where they're at. And I think that's a good thing. And I hope that, we see that in the future.
So I can only imagine how hard that is for a kid, because me going through my 20s and even into my 30s before Carrie, we had we got separated for a little while. I was doing the same thing. I was comparing my life to what I was seeing on social media, on Facebook, and it was causing me to question my own life. Was what I had really enough? Did I want something else and all this other stuff? So, it just blows my mind that a kid, a teenager, or a preteen or even younger than that is comparing their life to what they look like, how God made them, to what these algorithms are throwing in their face on social media and causing all this discord and dysfunction in their life. It's just mind blowing.
To piggyback on Tracy's point about kids, especially uh, being a police officer, and then plus just viewing the way kids are today, you can have a pretty downtrodden view of it. But one of the bright spots that I've noticed with Gracie, all throughout high school, she was in a massive 6A school in Katy. That girl was a rock star there. And when I was in school, the kids who were different or intellectually disabled, they were not treated like rock stars. They were treated bad. And the kids of today seem to have a better heart to embrace people who are different than I think anything close to what we did. Because we always talk about how great things were when we were kids. Well, that part of the world wasn't great. But how they treat kids today, I see it everywhere we go. Gracie carries around a baby with her, so you get some crazy looks sometimes. But the kids they're just different. They seem to get it. They embrace them. And so definitely want to throw kudos to the kids of today and how they treat those kids who are a little different. That is a very refreshing thing to see, man.
This is a perfect segue into your baby girl, Rain. You talked about how when you and Peyton got married, 3 months later, you had a child. Her name is Rain, and she's autistic. Talk about being a dad and a parent to Rain, and how that works, and what you have to go through on a day-to-day basis when she was young and as she's grown up.
Man, when Rain was born, she's our first kid, right? And so we didn't see delays or anything like that. Like, we didn't know. And we had a lady at our church who actually pulled us to the side and said, and she's a therapist and she owns a business in town, and Rain does therapy there now. And she pulled us to the side and she told us, she said, I love you a lot, and I want you to know that I think that you need to have your daughter tested for autism. And let's talk about that for a second. As a dad, I was thankful for it, and she had a wonderful heart, but I was like, nope, I'm going to fix it, right? So I can teach her how to not be autistic. That was my initial thoughts, I really did. My wife, God love her, she didn't feel that way, and it caused us to argue sometimes. Like, no, she doesn't need to go do that. She's fine. She's just 3 years old. She's going to figure it out. And so, I had to deal with a lot of pride when it came to that. Right. Rain is so I have 3 girls. I've got Rain, Riley, and Rowan. Rain is
Shout out girl dads.
Now. Yeah, girl dads for sure. She is she's almost 8. She'll be 8 in April. Riley is 6, going on 7. Rowan's 1, going on 25. Not really. She's 1, going on 2. But Rain, man, she's the one that made me a dad. And so just watching her, grow up, she has the sweetest soul, and it's hard to explain, just the way that she is. And so she's nonverbal. When I say that kind of loosely now, because she's starting to say some things and read some words at school and write down a couple things. And so she's really progressing, and it's really cool to watch. But so she's 8, right? Or almost 8. And it was hard. I'm not going to lie, because Riley's 2 years younger than her, and Riley starts talking, and, Riley can say, I love you, Mom, or I love you, Dad. And Rain just doesn't do that. And so as a dad, that's hard sometimes. And, you know, Riley's potty trained and Rain's not. She's still in a diaper. And so life just looks different for her, man. We have to figure out ways to protect her, to keep her safe. And to piggyback off of what Mike said, you know, she began pushing out into her regular classroom, not her self-contained room that she spends most of the day in this year. And those students have really been super helpful and a big part of why she's able to succeed in that. You know, every time they see her, like, they love her. Like, we had to let her not go to recess for a little bit because the kids were just like overwhelming her, wanting to play with her. And like, you wouldn't have, and like Mike said, like, that wouldn't have happened 20 years ago. Like, that kid she would have sat there by herself on the slide for the whole time. And so I am thankful for that. You know, we deal a lot with her safety. She tries to get out. She tries to get out of the house a lot. She does get out of the house a lot. She has no concept of fear whatsoever. And that is the biggest struggle that we face now today is, you know, she's gone. Like, she just takes off running. And so we have to do our part in that.
Tracey, we talked the other day about the most recent time that she escaped, you know, early in the morning and kind of the fear that set in. Talk about that story a little bit.
Yeah. So she, you know, she got out. We moved to our new house where we're at. And it was shortly after we got here, before we had our security system and all that stuff set up and in place. And she got out in the middle of the night, and we didn't know it. She went to our neighbor's house down the street, knocked on their door 3:00 in the morning. You know, they opened the door and let her in. She goes in there and she's messing with something in there. They give her a snack and a water, and they bring her back to our house. So I wake up at, you know, I think it was like 3:15 in the morning, to a guy saying my name, which was just, it scared me, obviously. And then once we realized, like, I saw Rain standing there, then I knew what had happened and knew that she had gotten out. And, you know, that's the scariest thing, because in the world we live in, if one wrong person was in our neighborhood that night, she could have been gone. Or even if, you know, she didn't go to that house and she went to someone else's house, it's a good person, they're not going to be able to help her because she's not going to be able to tell them where to go or who I am or what my name is. Like, she can't say those things. And so her safety is the hardest thing, but it's the most important thing. And we've since gotten our alarm system and all of that stuff installed to where it'll wake up the whole neighborhood if she gets out again. But it's a struggle, you know, for parents with special needs that deal with that constantly. It's hard to rest at night sometimes. It really is.
Well, and to add on to that, I think a lot of I know of people families who, when they have multiple kids too, they don't necessarily embrace the special needs kid. And I just want to say, for families, you know, and parents like you and your wife that embrace their child, and that they're a blessing from God, and that we're you know, yeah, things can be more difficult, but we get special rewards, and, you know, things that other people don't get. Like Gracie's innocence is not gone, even though she's 21. It remains. It's a beautiful thing to see. And but kudos to parents who embrace their special needs child, and the struggle and the triumphs that come with that, because not everyone does it. And and you also look at the divorce rate of parents with special needs kids is very, very high. So you have society that's already high, and then you add in a special needs kids, and a lot of those families break up, and the special needs kid is left behind. So awesome that you guys are together and awesome that you embrace her like you do, because a lot of these kids, they're not embraced like that. So kudos to you there. And we will definitely keep praying for you, and the safety thing too. I know that would drive me insane. So I'll be throwing some extra prayers your way to maybe we can get it under control as she gets a little older, where you don't have to worry so much about it, you know?
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that, Mike.
So, moving on to your latest adventure, local politics. Tell us why you got into politics, and why you're doing it, and what you want out of, being on the Russellville School Board, what you want to change. Just talk about that a little bit for us.
I'm excited to be running for Russellville School District on the school board, and I think for me, I went back to school to get my master's degree in church and community, and did a lot of research on Russellville in general, on the way that the church and the community are supposed to work together. So through a lot of that research, through being a dad, of two girls that are already in the school district, and then Rowan will be when she's old enough, it just was something that I got excited to do. I think that it's important that I don't think you can underestimate the value of having a dad on the school board that's making decisions to impact the future for students. The decisions that I make will impact my family personally, as well as every other student across the district. And so that's the main reason why I wanted to run for Russellville School District. My dad served on the board he's still on the board right now. I think he's been on the board for 20-ish years in Manila, on the school board. And so I got to watch, the way that he served the community, and that's my whole thing. Like, I'm not running for school board as much as I'm just trying to be able to go serve the students. Dad did that well, and I know how hard it is. Like, I understand that some people don't like the school board, and that's okay. And it's just important that at the end of the day, whoever is elected, I think that all four guys that are running are good men, and it's just important that whoever is elected always chooses to do what's best for the students, man. That for me, not being from here allows me to really not have a bias towards anyone or anything, or to even know, what happened 10 years ago that people are still mad about. And it really, I think, to help, bring some trust and some unification back, I think that I would be able to bring that. And so that's kind of what my goal is. If I'm elected to the school board, is to, hopefully help the community become one again, because nobody wins whenever people hate each other. Nobody wins whenever people are uncomfortable and things like that. So at the end of the day, man, that's kind of why I'm choosing to run for school board. And it's coming up pretty close. The voting already started. March 5th is right here upon us. When I leave here, when we get done here in a minute, I'm probably going to go to the polls and be talking to people and things like that. So I'm not a big fan of the politicking and the asking for votes and all of that stuff. It's just, for me, it's about the students, man. Just like my youth ministry and things like that. For me, I just want to be able to get to work.
Man, I tell you, Tracy, let me just tell you before we go, and I'm sure the guys have a lot to tell you too, but I want to say thank you. And how I think it's freaking cool what you're doing, man. That takes guts. And pardon my French, takes balls to do what you're doing, man. And to stand up for these kids. There is an absolute all out war on our kids. And this is exactly what it takes. Dudes like you standing up and saying, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to stand in the gap, and stand up for these kids. Dude, I'm going to get emotional. I'm getting goosebumps. I just admire the crap out of what you're doing. I wish I had that kind of courage. That's what it takes, dude. It's all out courage. And I admire you so much for it, and I'm praying for you, and for our kids, and for God's will to be done here. But I just wanted to say thank you, brother, and I admire the crap out of what you're doing.
Thank you, Eric.
Yes, my hat is off to you, brother. Whether you get voted in or not, man, the impact you're having on kids already, man, is paramount. And I know if I was in the Russellville School District, you would have my vote for sure, no doubt. And moving on into the funnest conversation we're going to have today, Tracey, my man Tracey, is a sports card fanatic. He's big time in the trading cards. No. Yeah, you are. Just talk about your trading cards, man. How you got into it. I think you brought some cards to show us, and I know in 2018, me and Eric and my stepdad took a impromptu trip to Omaha, watched the Hawks take down Florida, and on our way back, we were driving on the side of the road. We saw this huge American flag on this side of this grain bin. So we were like, let's go check that out. So we rolled over, and it was just like a super small town. Like if you'd blinked, you literally would have missed the town. And we got in town, and I think we went to a Casey's to get some candy or something for the road, Happy Cherries or something. And when we rode through downtown, there was an old pharmacy that had an old soda shop in it. We rolled in there. I mean, they had the old fountains where you pull the thing, get the Coke, and then she was dipped in some ice cream. We had root beer floats. We walked out and we looked across the street, and there was a trading card, like a sports card memorabilia shop. Some local dude had opened up a shop, and he had all kinds of sports cards and sports memorabilia. We probably spent close to an hour in there chatting with that guy. So tell us about your sports
Hamburg,
card.
Iowa, Chris.
Yeah,
Hamburg,
Iowa.
Yep. And Tracey, let me just tell you that it was like stepping back into some sort of time machine. It was like going back to old school. Talk about a small town. That was a small town. I mean, cornfields everywhere. And then just this little community. But yeah, the sports card thing was amazing. And I'm anxious to hear about what you got here.
Yeah, so I collected cards as a kid. Didn't collect for a while. Started back. It's been a little over a year now, I guess. I'm not big in the sports card world, Chris. But so Caden's a good friend of ours. College student at the church. Got a fly that's surrounding me now. A college student at the church, and he kind of got me into it a little bit. I didn't realize how different it is than it was at one point, just how big the whole thing has become. And kind of went down a YouTube rabbit hole for a while, and that started my little journey with sports cards. The last couple months, I haven't been doing near as much because I've been doing all the stuff with the school board and trying to get ready for that. But it's a very neat thing, in my opinion. If you've ever been to a show, or if you've never been to a show, it's cool to watch the way that people come together, right? You'll at one table, you'll have a 7-year-old kid negotiating with a 60-year-old man selling his cards, right? And you'll have that to me was the neatest thing about being at the show, was watching that young boy go and haggle this older gentleman over a couple dollars. And I think that there's growth in that. I think that teaches that young man, good things about money, how to be respectful, how to stand up for himself. And so that was interesting for me at the show. And the YouTube world of sports cards is crazy. Tarver Cards is my favorite person to follow, and he's actually a New Life Church guy. He lives I think he lives in the Little Rock area somewhere in that ballpark. But his stuff on YouTube is really neat. He does it with his kids. He's a doctor in education, and so he does that on the side. He's got like 50,000 followers, and so most of his videos are with his daughter and his kids, and I knew who he was personally, so that was interesting for me. My wife's turning on the microwave. Sorry, you can probably hear it, but she says she has to eat. So he's the guy that I started watching his stuff, and that kind of got me interested in it. I've got some stuff I can show you today, but like for me, this card right here is let me get it up here to where you can see it. This is a Yogi Berra. Let me turn it this way. Yogi Berra. That's the first card that I ever bought at a show. Bought this one in Bentonville. They're called GG2 Sports Cards. They host shows up there quite a bit. And this was, there was an older gentleman that had all kinds of old stuff like this. Not a super expensive card, but something that I'll always have. This is the first one I bought at a show. The first card that I bought, so this is my biggest disappointment. Not really disappointment, but this is the first card that I bought. I don't know if you can see it. So this is the Griffey. This is the Griffey rookie with his necklace, and so if you see the top there, it's a 6.5 was the grade. I bought it. You can tell it's off centered, and I thought it was going to grade pretty well. So this card in a 10 sells for around $1,000, right? If it's mint condition. I bought it raw at Old South. This was the first one I bought in person. I bought it at Old South. Rest in peace to the Old South, because that's where I was at. Sent it in to get graded, and it's a 6.5. So this is a constant reminder of bad investment for Tracey Reinhart. Okay, so I spent $40 on it, sent it to get graded, so it costs about $18 to get it graded. So I got $60 in this card, and it's worth about 20 at the 6.5. So, just some cool stuff that I've got. Everybody knows Bo, right? So that's just a pretty standard card. Ken Griffey. So I collect St. Louis Cardinals, all St. Louis Cardinals, obviously. I collect St. Louis Cardinals, Ken Griffey Jr., and then any pro Razorback are the things that I collect. So here's a Ken Griffey Jr. Etch-a-Sketch, which is just kind of a neat card, man. That one's worth a couple $100. Albert Pujols rookie card.
That one looked like it was graded at a 9.5.
It was. So that's a Pujols rookie card that I bought raw, and I sent it in to get graded. 9.5 is almost perfect. That's worth a couple $100. Then I've got some more stuff. I showed y'all this one earlier, but this is a Moses Moody out of 10. So it's an auto, and there's only 10 of these. And that's kind of neat too, right? So there's 10 of these ever made, and I've got one of them in my hand. It's probably worth about $70 or $80, but it's just neat to have. Go through some more stuff real quick. Got a Frank Robinson, Brooks Robinson. It's got the Brooks auto on it. So that's pretty neat. My dad gave me this, so I'll keep that forever. I like to buy them, sell them, trade them, all that stuff. This is a rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. I don't know if you can see it, if it'll settle. So the neat thing about this series, okay, this is the Hardwood Prospects. I bought this card off of Tyler Tarver. I have this whole set of rookies, and if you know anything about this draft class, this is like Steve Nash, Allen Iverson, Kobe Bryant, Stephon Marbury. It's like a bunch of studs. So I have all of their rookie cards. I don't have them all graded, but I have all of that set. Shout out to my man Grant Black. Played baseball with this guy growing up, so it's just cool, that I played with him, and now I got his card. I'm gonna send it to him and have him sign it. This is for Eric. Here's a old MJ. I got to get this thing graded. This is a pretty It's a pretty good card. If this thing grades mint condition, it's pretty good. Jordan Walker,
that card be worth, say, mint condition, that Jordan card, if it graded out high?
could be around $1,000. So, and I gave $200 for a whole binder. That's what I like to do, man. I bought 3 binders of cards for a couple $100, and this one card could be worth all of that. And there was more stuff than that in there, but that's what I like to do: buy old collections, go through stuff, sort through them, send in the stuff that's good. Jordan Walker, guy that I'm going in on right now, Cardinal prospect. And then the last 2 that I'm going to show you. We'll do this one first. This is cool. So I hope you can see this. This card's not worth any money, okay? If it'll settle. Can you see it?
Kind of glare on it.
Can you see it now?
I can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it
So-
Yankees?
What it is, I'll tell you about it. So it's a 2002 Topps, Yankees versus White Sox. America United We Stand. This is the first game that was played after 9/11.
How cool is that?
I collected this as a kid, and I found it in my binder, and it's beat up. I tore it up pretty bad. It graded a PSA 6, so it's about. But how cool is that to have, American flag? It's Roger Clemens, Andy Pettit standing there with the FDNY hats on. Just
Wow.
pretty, and it's in the red, white, and blue case. So just pretty neat. And then lastly, I got this little nugget.
What is that?
Oh,
So when I first started collecting, I told you the first card I bought was that Griffey card, right?
yeah.
And my daughter knew how much I loved it. And so she drew me the King Griffey Jr. card. And so this is the most precious thing that I have when it comes to sports cards. I'm going to send it in and have them encase it, and I'll keep it forever. So
Dude,
Let's go.
that's awesome. I got a question for you. I have a friend who does Hot Wheels, and he's big time into it. He'll go to Walmart when they first open the package, and he's always looking for has to have a special mark on it to be the collector item. So if a person were to get into trading cards today, like when I was a kid, I just remember going to the store and buying the packs, or you could buy the full box. How does that happen today? Do you get the special card in the box, or is it random? How does that work?
yeah, so they all have, different odds when it comes to, if you buy the retail packs, there's less likely to be more expensive stuff in them. You can buy what's called hobby packs, which are more expensive boxes, but your chances of getting a better card are better. You buy cases, which would be multiple boxes. Most of what I do, I don't buy a ton of boxes or packs and rip stuff. I kind of more buy what I want, or I'll buy somebody who's good, like a Luka Doncic card that I don't really care about, because I don't really care about Luka, and then I'll turn around and sell it and try to make some money on it so that I can buy something that I want, right? I don't make money at it, but the money that I make, I just turn around and buy stuff that I want to collect. That's kind of how I do it. There is a local card shop now in Lamar. It's called the Card Chop. They just opened a couple months ago. They're super friendly in there. The guy that owns it is a super nice guy. And so if you're interested in going and checking something like that out, give them a shout out. And that's it. It's a pretty neat spot. So
There's no when you go to the stores. Be my last question on it. It's not like the Hot Wheels where you're looking for a certain mark. It's just you have to open them to find out what you're getting. There's no special way to kind of go through their inventory to get that special card, maybe.
not really, not at the store. I mean, people. So some people, it's a big no-no. You're not supposed to do this, but people will take a scale and they'll weigh the cards, because if a card has a patch on it, so it's got a piece of a jersey, so that pack will weigh more than a pack that doesn't have one. And so, or people, they'll take the pack and they'll hold it up to the light and you can kind of see. And yeah, it's a big no-no. People do what they want, but.
So the manufacturers of these cards, Tracy, if I'm understanding right, just randomly place more valuable cards in packs. Is it at random? Is it just?
So you have odds. So you'll have your odds of getting like an autographed card, and it tells you like on the back of the package, it'll say like 1 out of 1,000 or 1 out of 10,000 or whatever. It'll say on the back of the pack. If you buy something from a retail store, that's the least likely that you are to get something like that. If you buy, say, a hobby box, it's called a hobby box. You can buy those online, or they sell them like at the card shop. They sell hobby boxes. And what that means is those boxes, your 1 out of 10,000 in Walmart will be a 1 out of 3,000 in a hobby box or something along those lines.
I see. And the grading system, the scale, what is it? Is it on a scale of 10 or how?
So they're different. PSA, which is the red and white thin case, is 1 to 10. These are the most valuable in the market. So PSA cards are worth more. Let's say I had this Jordan Walker, this is SGC. See how it's in a different colored case? So SGC is actually my favorite. They're cheaper to grade. They grade them faster. But if I had this card in a 10 and an SGC and the same card in a PSA 10, it would be worth more in this case than it would be in this case. Just people, it's all based on the market, right? So how much somebody else is paying for those cards. And so, and then here, this is a good example. This is a Beckett slab, which is like Beckett magazines and things from the day. This is a Beckett slab. They probably have the thickest, sturdiest slab. So I didn't mean to do that, but yeah, those are the top 3 grading companies.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. The old school. I did football cards for a very small time when I was a kid. And I remember you had to buy the magazines, and then you would look up your value. That's before the internet, and it's just funny now. You can just type it in and probably get an approximate value in no time.
Yeah, so they still have the magazines. They still send them out. But the main thing that people do now is you look the card up on eBay, then you select like completed sales, and then it'll show you, how much that card is sold for in the last however many times it's sold. And that's how you approximate what the value is on the card.
What's the turnaround time, like say for when you send a card off to get graded, to get it back and have a grade and all that?
So PSA, which is the more expensive one, takes like forever. That's why I don't use them. I mean, their value's more, but they take more like 3 months to get a card back. So your SGC slabs, which are the black ones, which are the ones that I like, that look like this, their turnaround time is 5 to 7 days. Well, you got to think about too, like when are you going to sell said card that you're sending in? Because if you're going to send in a card like a Pat Mahomes, who's about to win he just won the Super Bowl, but let's say you're going to sell it before he wins the Super Bowl or right after he wins the Super Bowl. Well, Pat Mahomes cards the day after the Super Bowl when they won are going to be worth way more that day than 3 months from now, whenever you got a PSA card back. So you kind of got to weigh, do I know that it's going to be worth less value in this to sell it at the top end, or do I wait and sell it when it's not as hot later? And so that's kind of the gamble that people take when it comes to that.
That makes sense on that. Tracey, man, we thank you for coming on the show. I think I can speak for all the guys on the show that we admire what you're doing, man, for the kids in our community. From listening to each part of what we went through with your story and different parts of your life, the common theme that I see is it all comes back to community, whether it's the trading cards, whether it's the church, whether it's the politics. And I think you have a heart for the community, for the people, for the young people. I can see that in you, man. I can see the light of Jesus in you. I love you, brother. And I know these guys appreciate you coming on. We made it through the Grove together, man. We embraced the war at the Grove.
Yes, we did. Tracey, brother, I tell you, man, that's right, brother. We survived the Grove together, so I know you're all right. that's how I got to know you, man, was on the trip to the Grove. And I instantly knew, like Chris said, I could see the light of Jesus in you. I could tell you were just a dude. We had some great conversations. By the time we got to Oxford, I actually had this dude I had him and Fletch both talked into the fact that we were going to win that day in the Grove. I've got a gift. I can do that. I'm eternally optimistic. But anyway, Tracey, dude, I'm so thankful for you being on the show today, man. I'm thankful for the work you're doing every day for Jesus, for kids, for the community. I look for you every time I hit the church house because I want to see that smile, dude, and get my hug and my bump. And brother, I'm thankful for you. So thanks for coming on. I look forward to watching you. You got big things in store, I know.
And I will pray us out of here. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for our audience, Lord. We thank you that Tracey is a warrior for your kingdom, Lord. No matter what he's doing, whether he's in ministry, in the community, we thank you for his friendship. Father, lead and guide us by your Holy Spirit. Give us the strength, Father, every day to keep fighting the good fight. We love you and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you for listening to the Life After Sunday podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Please give us a like and a comment, and go follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. And as always, keep fighting the good fight.